Hello my peeps, this is Kat aka Kakibot and this is Kakibot's Guidebook, and in today's episode I am taking you to a place that I am so excited about. I have wanted to come here for years now because Simon's grandma years ago told me about this, north of England living museum with its, 1950s town and 1900s farm and all of that, and also a lot of these old-timey vehicles. There's a cool old-timey bus coming right now. Yay, bus! If you've seen my episode on transportation in Edinburgh and me going into the transportation museum over in Glasgow, you know that I do have a good capacity of getting excited about buses and trams, because double-decker trams, amazing stuff. Anyway, we are here for today, taking you with us to show you what it's about, what there is to do, and if it's worth your time and money. Because admittedly, it costs almost £30 to get into this living museum. However, I will say, first of all, with that ticket you actually get to come as many times as you want for the whole year following the date you buy your ticket. And also it kind of makes a lot of sense, because when you think about how huge this place is and how many buildings and like old-timey machinery there is to, keep an eye on, to sustain like in a working condition, that must be really expensive. So yeah, I've been here for like 2 hours now. I'm super impressed and I can't wait to show you the rest of this whole area. I really hope that some of you have watched my previous video about visiting Newcastle for the first time ever, and hopefully it has inspired you to visit this city. So this video is almost like a bonus tip for what to do when you are in Newcastle, because you can take public transport buses from Newcastle to Beamish and make it into a little bonus day trip. The whole area covers Northern English history from 1820s through 1900s, 1940s, and very, very freshly also the 1950s. We took the tram to the 1900s town. They run pretty often, making the stops easily accessible even if you're not fit for long walks, and there are also specially adjusted buses for wheelchair users and others with the need for mobility assistance. So we thought we'd check out the 1950s town first. When we shot this, the 1950s street hasn't fully been finished yet, but at the time you are watching this, there's a lot more to see and of course a lot less work being done on this area, so it's probably a lot more photogenic. Of course, as mentioned before, the ticket we got actually lasts for the whole year since the date we bought it, so I'm really hoping we will be back and check it out. We got some fish and chips in one of the Beamish chippies. Those seem to be quite an institution. People seem to really love their Beamish fish and chips. A lot of them seem to have this era-appropriate furbishing, and the chips and fish are cooked in beef drippings, the traditional way. I also absolutely love that there's an actual hairdresser here, where you can have your hair done in the 1950s style, like this lovely lady that let me take a picture. The 1900s town is probably the most iconic area of the museum, and I'm gonna warn you that if you're not careful, you will absolutely spend a lot more time here than you have previously planned. There's a bakery here where, if you're lucky, you might catch a fun presentation of old-timey bread making, but also a great spot to grab a little treat. And right next to it is the photographer studio and a chemist shop. You can arrange a photo session here to have the ultimate souvenir from Beamish, an image of you being an adorable history dork. Or you can just listen to the ladies tell you about the virtues of using electrified water to fix all your ailments in the name of progress, I guess.
Personally, I really like the sweets shop. I will tell you more about that a bit later, but spoiler alert, you can get a whole lot of flavors of boiled sweets here, which seems to be, the old-timey favorite, and also the grocery store. I wish we could still buy a pick and mix of biscuits today. This biscuit display just held my attention hostage. Museum approach will force even the most avid museum disliker to learn something, which I'm guessing is one of the big reasons so many schools make this into a day trip. As a matter of fact, on the day we visited, there was 16 different school groups. Thankfully, these are relatively easy to dodge, even if this means you might want to wait for the next tram or bus coming up to avoid sharing with the kiddos. You see, I come from a teacher family, so I like to avoid school trips on my holidays. By the way, absolute majority of the buildings you see here were actually dismantled brick by brick and moved over to Beamish as we are able to experience it now. The whole project started with Dr. Frank Atkinson, who was inspired by Scandinavia's open-air living museums and wanted to make sure England's north has an equivalent place keeping its history alive. He started his work in the 1950s when he essentially asked local folks to donate whatever historical objects they could find in their houses, and he would accept them all. Many of these everyday items did indeed become parts of the museum later when it opened in the 1970s. After you're done here, you can take the bus or tram or have a little stroll down to the Pit Village. This is a recreation of a 1900s mining village, as you would experience it at the peak of coal mining in north of England. The buildings here were moved here from Hatton-le-Hole, where they were originally constructed in the 1860s, to be then rebuilt in Beamish in 1976. In this area, you will find the coal mine ponies, which thankfully do not have to do any of this hard work anymore, but are still very adorable. The school, which I was way too large to pretend to be a pupil in, and for your convenience, also a couple of spots to pick up sustenance.
As it is usually the case with me, I do have a bit of a special interest in food, and here in Beamish there are multiple places where you can pick up some period accurate food. It is fascinating to me because not only you get to eat food the way people in the 0s and 50s would eat, but also you get to see it being prepared and served the way it would be back in those days. So, as I already mentioned, fish and chips, one of the things you should probably try and have here. They were very potato-y, very tasty. There is also a bakery where we had a rock cake, which I do believe is like a Northern English traditional bake. Another one was the confectionery store where we bought some of these and then also broke the bag. So now perhaps some of these are just floating about in our camera bag. I'm sure that's great. These are the sarsaparilla ones, which Simon says that was a name of a drink back then. The guy selling us these said that the flavor was kind of like a mix of licorice and dandelion and burdock, which I like one of those things. One of those three. No, one of those two flavors. I do like dandelion and burdock as a drink, so I would try this on camera, but I feel like it would take me some time to Based on those 4 licks, I will say I like this. I think Simon will not like it because he is very opposed to anything licorice adjacent. Do you like licorice? Let us know in the comment section. There are also a couple of more kind of coffee shoppy areas, so you can pick up water if you need it. The bottle is refillable, so you pay for the bottle once and then you get extra water at certain stations of Beamish Park. Kind of awkward with this little suite here. There's also obviously coffee stations. We just picked up some coffee. We had a little corned beef pasty, which Simon said was the hottest thing on earth. So he could basically now become a volcanologist because he has the experience for it. While I had some tasty soup. I also noticed if you're vegan, then unfortunately you can't have chips, but you can have some ice cream because they do have vegan vanilla ice cream here. Okay, I think that is it for my roundup of the foodie bits here. The little sort of mining train wants me to stop it, and I will. Okay, let's continue exploring.
Alrighty, now that we've had our soup and a single piece of candy, we are ready for a hard day at the mines. Tall people beware, you will be bending into all sorts of heavily contorted shapes to enjoy the miner experience, but considering the original miners had to work here in almost pitch black dark, we had it pretty good. And honestly, even those guys had it pretty good, because some other mines in County Durham had tunnels only 18 inches high. I don't think you would be fitting a pony into there.
Oh my god! I think I sat in a puddle. How bad is my coat?
Fine.
Yeah.
Around this area is also the 1940s farm, which is kind of the only area we didn't really have enough time for because this place is just so much larger than expected. Instead, we walked towards the 1820s landscape to see the Pockerley Hall. It has beautiful garden filled with blooms, especially now, early into the English summer. And of course, you'll get to walk through the house and meet all of the staff working away on their 19th century chores. And also, don't forget to learn about this very large pig. This will inevitably lead you down a Google rabbit hole, and I promise you, you had no idea just how large pigs can get.
And that was our day here at the Beamish Museum. Oh my god, we have almost literally traveled through like 100 years of England's history. We are actually finishing this video here at the 1850 Manor area, which I wasn't even aware was here. This is one of the areas that either you can visit as like the first spot on your visit or the last spot. For us it was the last, so it was kind of like digging deeper and deeper into time. I have only recently watched one of the newest versions of Pride and Prejudice, and when I was visiting that manor I did feel so Austen-y. Ostentatious. I think that the attention to detail here is just flippin' amazing. There are so many spots around Beamish where you will just like forget about modern world, like you will feel so kind of in touch with the actual sort of historical era they are trying to recreate here. Of course, I'm gonna say one thing, and this is not Beamish's fault, but the people visiting here, I have met zero people who were dressed nice. I'm sorry, visitors of Beamish, you have really let me down. So in all of my pictures, when you see all of those like Patagonia bright blue jackets. I'm sorry, I really try to avoid those people, but they are just all over the place. Anyway, as you can tell, both me and Simon did our best to kind of fit in with the setting here, and I recommend you do the same because it's going to make your pictures nicer, and of course other people's pictures also, so it's kind of like a kind thing to do. Another tip I'm going to give you is that we have spent I don't have my watch on because it didn't look old-timey enough. It's about 4:15 now and we arrived just past 10, so like we've been around for almost 6 hours and there is still more to see and we just missed out on it. So I'm really sorry that I couldn't quite give you like a 100% comprehensive video about Beamish. You will just have to look at the bits that I did show you and hopefully it will make you realize like this is an amazing place to visit, and you should. I've only heard English people around here. I think I've heard a couple of American accents here and there and maybe like one Polish group. Yeah, this seems to be an attraction which is so great, and yet most foreign visitors are clearly absolutely sleeping on it, and that is a mistake, my dear peeps. Do visit Beamish, it's amazing. Even though obviously for us locals paying those £30 and having that 1-year ticket is that kind of, you know, pays off a bit better, you will not regret it. You can literally spend the whole day here. It's like Disneyland for people who actually kind of dislike everything about Disneyland, like thrill rides, queues and loud children. So in many ways this place is perfect and a good deal and you need to come. Okay, that is it from me trying to sell you Beamish. If you're looking for more tips on travel around UK and more often Scotland, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I do try to post weekly. I also have a Patreon account, so if you want even more footage from my travels and all sorts of delicious adventures and insight into life in Scotland and Britain, do not forget to visit me there. This is the link. I am also on Instagram, KakiBot for my illustrations, KakiBlog for my photographs, and that is truly it from me. We are going to be continuing this northeast adventure in Durham, which is where we are going right now. So yeah, follow us to Durham, ideally. If you subscribe, you will know when that video is out. Ring the bell and I will see you there. Bye.